Idiots like you make me cry. Just quit if you're at the bottom." Saying that, my female boss Ashley reported an error I had nothing to do with to Mr. Wilson, the CEO, pinning the blame on me. I was handed my termination notice and felt anxious about my future. Finding a job as a middle school graduate seemed next to impossible. Then, a few days later, I received a call from Ashley, the very person who had framed me. "My name is Michael. I work in sales at a food manufacturing company. I've been with this company since graduating from middle school and am about to celebrate my 10th year of working next year." In an era where even high school graduates can feel insecure about their educational background, there was a reason I chose to work instead of going to high school. I lost my parents in an unexpected accident when I was in the 3rd grade. I have a younger sister, and following that incident, we were both taken in by my aunt, my mother's sister, and her husband. However, my sister Emily and I frankly disliked our aunt and uncle because they disliked us. After our parents passed away, there was a discussion about who would take us in. Since my father had no siblings and his parents were also deceased, it naturally fell to my mother's side of the family. My maternal grandparents were set to enter a nursing home, so it was decided that my mother's only sister, our aunt, and her husband would take us in. While my aunt and uncle mourned my mother's death, they did not pity us. Moreover, on the way to their house, they told us in the car, "Just so you know, we really don't want to take care of you. Don't expect to live as freely as before." While my sister was still in kindergarten and might not have understood these words, I was already in the 3rd grade and old enough to grasp their meaning. True to their word, the treatment we received was completely different from their biological son, Jack. We never got birthday presents as a matter of course, not even a cake. For Christmas, while Jack received expensive gifts like gaming consoles every year, Emily and I only got a notebook and a few pencils. I was aware that the fact that their biological son would be favored, but my sister, who had just started elementary school, was visibly shocked. Then my aunt said, "What? Got a complaint? Be thankful for what you get, you freeloaders." Being called freeloaders after losing our parents and being taken in by our grandmother, who was at least related by blood, was truly hurtful. At times like these, my heart ached so much I felt like crying. My sister Emily endured these tough times well, but occasionally she couldn't hold back her tears, always making sure our aunt didn't see her cry. I just wanted to somehow save my sister. With that thought, I made up my mind one day in my 2nd year of middle school. "Emily, once I graduate middle school, I'll start working. Then we can leave this house next year. Just hang in there a little longer." And so came my 3rd year of middle school. I called my aunt and uncle to the living room and shared the promise I had made with Emily. "I've decided to start working after graduation, but you two are the only family I can rely on, so I'd like to ask for your consent and to be my guarantors." I pleaded earnestly. Their response came quickly. "Fine, that's the least we can do. Take your sister with you. It'll be a relief for us to have you both out of the house." Though their consent was laced with sarcasm, I was relieved they agreed. Afterward, with the help of Mr. Riley, a teacher at school, I started searching the job. Being a 15-year-old middle school graduate, I didn't have many job options, but I couldn't compromise on salary because I needed to support Emily. The job hunt was challenging, but by focusing on sales positions where I could earn incentives based on the number of contracts, I managed to land just one interview. I approached that interview as if my life depended on it, and my passion must have come through because I was offered the job. It was tough, but finally, we could escape those hellish days. Emily was thrilled. I even informed my aunt and uncle about the job offer, but all they did was scoff, saying, "I can't believe there's a company that would hire someone like you." They couldn't even muster a fake congratulations. The day after the graduation ceremony, we started our new life. At my new job, the early days were indeed challenging. Being a middle school graduate, I struggled to gain trust and secure contracts, fighting an uphill battle every day. However, I was fortunate with my colleagues. Thanks to the support of them, I gradually increased the number of contracts, and the trust from our clients began to grow. As I started securing more contracts, the incentives, which were the reason I chose a sales job, increased, and so did my income. Our previously tough life started to have some breathing room, and Emily and I began to enjoy happier days. My main goal, besides making Emily happy, was to ensure she could go to college. Having experienced the difficulties of job hunting and working as a middle school graduate, I didn't want Emily to go through the same. To achieve this, I knew I had to earn more. With that strong determination, I continued to work hard and excel at my job. During this time, a woman named Ashley transferred to my department. I'm Ashley. I look forward to working with you from today. My first impression was that she was a beautiful and polite woman. And Ashley became my boss, the youngest person in this department. Working with a beautiful woman seemed great at first, but that feeling was short-lived. Can't you even do this much? Typical of a middle school graduate. So slow. This is why the low-educated person is a problem. Although it was my fault when I made mistakes, Ashley would always add the word middle school grad to belittle me. Yet, despite being only 4 years out of college, she was so competent that she became the department head. Not just me, but even the more experienced employees couldn't give her orders. Whether it was due to the environment or just her personality, Ashley did whatever she pleased. If she disliked a client, she dumped them on me, and despite my gradually increasing contract numbers, which were by no means poor, she'd scornfully say, "Bring in more contracts, you failure." Moreover, she only went to major clients and took all the good jobs for herself, causing trouble for the other employees too. Since Ashley's transfer, the department's atmosphere had been getting progressively worse. The damage even extended to the administrative staff. She was particularly harsh on a female admin named Melody. She was dumping a huge amount of work on her without sharing it with other admins and making her redo tasks for unreasonable reasons. Feeling sorry for what I saw, I once offered to help, only for Ashley to berate me, saying, "You can't even do your own job properly, and yet you're meddling in others. If you have time to spare, bring in more contracts." It's troublesome how middle school grad only think with their emotions. I was utterly defeated by her harsh words. Although the warm and friendly environment was gone, I clung to my work for Emily's sake, prioritizing contract acquisition while not neglecting support for the companies we worked with. I had built a particularly good relationship with a major company, Smith Trading. However, one morning, I arrived at the office to find it unusually noisy. Peeking in, I heard, "It's serious. It seems Michael missed an appointment with a client yesterday. Has Michael arrived yet?" I had no recollection of such an appointment. It wasn't listed in my to-do list, which I always write in my notebook. But Ashley was making a fuss, claiming it was my mistake. To clear the misunderstanding, I entered the office. "Good morning." "Oh, finally here, Michael, because you missed yesterday's appointment. The client is furious. They're going to terminate the contract. This is why middle school grads are a problem." "I'm sorry, but I wasn't informed of that appointment, and I don't think I'm responsible for that client." "I don't want to hear excuses. Not informed. You must have forgotten. And your name is on the contract documents. Can you still say it wasn't you?" Ashley slammed the documents in front of me. Looking at them, my name was indeed on a contract, complete with a seal. But I had no recollection of it. No matter how much I tried to explain, Ashley wouldn't listen. She said, "I'll report this to Mr. Wilson. Idiots like you make me cry. The bottom dwellers should just quit." She spat out the words. Later that day, I was called in by Mr. Wilson. "Excuse me." "Come in." Mr. Wilson looked stern, a sign of his considerable anger, unusual for his normally gentle demeanor. Still, I came here desperate to clear the misunderstanding. However, I've already heard about your usual work attitude and contract situation from Ashley. She said you're beyond help. This morning, you forgot an appointment with a client and caused trouble, insisting it wasn't your fault. Not only are we losing one of the few clients we have, but you're also causing trouble for other employees, making the workplace atmosphere worse. Our company usually hires only high school graduates, but we made an exception for you because of your enthusiasm. I feel betrayed. It seemed Ashley had fabricated stories not just about this morning, but about my work attitude as well. The one with the bad attitude and ruining the workplace atmosphere was Ashley, not me. But for now, I had to explain this morning's situation. Mr. Wilson, there must be some mistake about this morning. I wasn't in charge of that company, nor did I have any appointment scheduled. Then how do you explain these documents? With that, Mr. Wilson presented the documents that Ashley had shown me earlier, which I didn't recognize. I don't recognize these documents either. Although the number of contracts I've secured is small, I remember every company I've worked with. I see, understood. I was relieved for a moment. But then, I was abruptly told, you're fired. What? A person who can take responsibility for their own mistakes isn't needed here. Are you suggesting that Ashley fabricated these documents? What reason would she have to do that? Even if I were to believe you, do you have any evidence? Evidence? I was left speechless. It's a shame. And so, I was fired from the company due to a mistake that was framed on me. When I returned to the office to gather my belongings, I caught Ashley's eye. She was smirking. As I had suspected, it seemed that she had indeed fabricated those documents. While I was packing up, Ashley said loudly enough for everyone to hear, if you had just admitted it, this wouldn't have happened. At that moment, I was in shock and didn't even glance her way. After packing, I left the office without saying a word. I'm home. Hi Michael, what's with all the stuff? I got fired. I forced a smile and said that. But seeing Emily's face made all the emotions I had been holding back explode, and I broke down right there. Emily, I'm sorry. Without saying a word, Emily stayed by my side, comforting me until I calmed down. After catching my breath, I told her everything that happened that day. Well, being fired doesn't change. I'll start looking for a new job tomorrow. I don't expect to find a place that will hire a middle school graduate like me easily. I can work too. It's okay if I quit high school. Even if we're both middle school grads, if we work together, we can make ends meet. At the time, Emily was in high school, and since I had promised to support her through college, she was attending a fairly advanced school. Losing my job at such a critical time made me even more depressed, thinking I wouldn't be able to send Emily to college. As expected, finding a new job was difficult. I was mostly rejected at the resume screening stage, and during interviews, being fired from my previous job became a major issue, leaving interviewers with a bitter taste. Then one day, I received a call from the company I had been fired from. It was Ashley on the line. What can I do for you? Michael, are you okay right now? I need you to come to the office immediately. Ashley's voice was weak, and even through the phone, I could tell she was exhausted. I hesitated, but then I remembered I hadn't said goodbye to the colleagues who had looked after me. Thinking of it as a chance to do so, I decided to go to the office. Upon arrival, the receptionist Melody told me to go to the CEO's office. Excuse me. Inside were Mr. Wilson, Ashley, and a distinguished-looking man who was clearly someone important. Thank you for coming. This is Mr. Johnson, CEO of Smith Trading. Smith Trading was the company I had good relations with. But it was my first time meeting Mr. Johnson, so I hadn't recognized him. I see. My apologies. I'm Michael, and I was in charge until recently. Mr. Johnson came here wanting to cancel the contract if you weren't in charge anymore. I see, but I'm no longer with the company. Then Mr. Johnson, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. Your father, Ken, worked tirelessly for us and single-handedly turned our struggling company around. We were shocked to hear of his tragic accident. When I found out that you were in charge of our account, I was truly surprised. How did you know about me? It's because your father, Ken, often boasted about you and your sister while he was alive. He would talk about how his son, Michael, won first place in the race at the sports festival, for example. So, every time I remembered Ken, I would wonder how you and your sister were doing after losing your parents. That's when I heard you had been fired, and I came to find out why. Our contact at your company spoke very highly of you, which made me even more curious. I've heard some details from Mr. Wilson, but I wanted to hear it from you as well. I decided it was time to lay everything out, including my previous protests to Mr. Wilson and the intense harassment from Ashley. Ashley interrupted, claiming she never did such things. Don't make things up without evidence. It was that time. Excuse me, may I? It was Melody, the receptionist. She said and played a voice recorder on the table, which captured Ashley's verbal abuse towards me and other employees. Mr. Johnson was furious. What is this? Is this kind of behavior tolerated in this company? Faced with Ashley's denial and the absence of evidence, Mr. Wilson was visibly shocked. Ashley herself, unable to refute the accusations, stood silently, avoiding eye contact. Apparently, Michael's point is correct. Michael is an exceptional salesman. We were considering a significant contract worth $10 billion because he was involved, but unfortunately, Michael has been fired, Mr. Johnson remarked. After saying this, Mr. Johnson stood up and said, "Let's go, Michael," before leaving the CEO's office. Following his lead, I also exited the office. Afterward, Mr. Johnson and I went out for a meal. I'm glad the misunderstanding has been cleared. Thank you, I express my gratitude. No, a company that doesn't value an outstanding employee like you isn't worth staying at, he replied. We then spent a great time reminiscing about my late father, soaking in nostalgic memories. As we were parting, Mr. Johnson inquired, "Have you found a job yet?" No, perhaps due to being a middle school graduate, I haven't been taken seriously anywhere. It's been a series of defeats, I confessed. That's good then, he responded. Excuse me, I was puzzled. Come work for us. Finding someone as talented as you, even among college graduates, is challenging. I'd like you to contribute to our company, just like your father Ken did, Mr. Johnson offered. Without hesitation, I accepted, saying, I'd be honored. Years later, I rose to become the head of the sales department at Smith Trading. Recognized as the right-hand man of Mr. Johnson by my colleagues and Mr. Johnson himself. As for Ashley, she was fired due to the harassment coming to light and the lost contract with Smith Trading. She's now starting from scratch in a new job. Although the workplace atmosphere has stabilized, it soon faced management difficulties due to a culture that tolerated poor work attitudes like Ashley's. It leading to its eventual bankruptcy for layoffs, resignations, and job changes. I take pride in the achievements I've made for my abilities, not my educational background. Working at Smith Trading has been incredibly enjoyable. Moreover, I achieved my initial goal of supporting my sister Emily through college, and we continue to live happily together. This societal disparity based on education, that remains unchanged. However, there is one unchanging truth. It is that effort can change one's life. Dedication doesn't require educational credentials. Believing in oneself and persistently striving towards goals will undoubtedly open new paths. Even if faced with ridicule or the urge to give up, taking one more step forward can lead your life in a better direction.